I booked the trip because I needed silence more than anything else, and the listing promised exactly that. A small cabin deep in the hills, far from the main town, no neighbors for at least a kilometer. It sounded perfect at the time. When I reached, the place looked even more isolated than the photos. The owner handed me the keys quickly, barely said anything, and left before it got dark. I remember thinking it was weird how fast he wanted to leave. At that moment, I didn't think much of it. I was just happy to finally be alone. The first evening went smoothly. I unpacked, made some tea, and sat outside watching the sunset disappear behind the trees. There was no network, no traffic noise, nothing, just wind and occasional insects. It felt peaceful, almost too peaceful. When night came, the silence got heavier. It wasn't relaxing anymore, just empty. Still, I locked the door, turned off the lights, and went to bed. I figured I'd get used to it. I woke up around midnight without any clear reason. No sound, no dream, just suddenly awake. For a few seconds, I didn't move. Then I noticed something. The air felt different, like the room wasn't as closed as it should be. I sat up slowly and looked toward the window. It was still locked. The door too. Everything looked normal, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something had changed while I was asleep. That's when I heard it. A soft sound outside the cabin, not loud enough to be obvious, but clear enough to notice, like someone walking on dry leaves. Slow steps, not rushed. I told myself it was probably an animal, but the pattern didn't match. The steps were too steady, too deliberate. They circled the cabin once, then stopped right outside my door. I held my breath and waited. There was no knock, no attempt to open the door, just silence. Then, after a few seconds, I heard breathing, faint but close, like someone standing right outside. I didn't move. I didn't even blink. After what felt like minutes, the sound faded. The steps continued again, slowly moving away into the darkness. I didn't sleep for the rest of the night. Morning made everything feel less real. Sunlight, birds, normal sounds. I stepped outside and checked the ground around the cabin. There were no clear footprints, just disturbed leaves in a rough circle around the house. I told myself it had to be an animal. That was the only explanation that made sense. I even laughed about it, trying to convince myself I was overreacting. But I still locked the door carefully before going out during the day. That evening, I made sure everything was secured. Windows locked, door double-checked, even pushed a chair against it just in case. I kept a flashlight next to my bed. I didn't want to feel unprepared again. Around midnight, the same thing happened. I woke up suddenly, like something had pulled me out of sleep. This time, I didn't wait. I listened immediately. The footsteps were already there, closer than before, not circling the cabin this time, just walking straight toward the door. My chest tightened as they stopped right outside. Then came the same breathing, but heavier this time, slower, controlled. I could hear it clearly through the wood. Then something brushed against the door. Not knocking, not scratching, just touching it. I stayed completely still, hoping it would go away like before. Instead, it stayed there. Minutes passed, maybe longer. Then I heard something new, a faint voice. Not loud enough to understand words, just a low murmur. It sounded like someone trying to speak without fully opening their mouth. My body went cold. I knew it wasn't an animal anymore. I don't know why, but I slowly got out of bed and walked toward the door. Every step felt wrong, like I was doing exactly what I shouldn't. I stopped just inches away from it. The breathing was still there, right on the other side. I could almost feel it through the wood. Then the voice stopped. Complete silence again. And then, very softly, something tapped the door. Not a knock, just one light tap. Then another. Slow. Patient. Like it knew I was standing there. I didn't respond. I didn't speak. I just stood there, frozen. After a few seconds, the tapping stopped. The breathing continued for a moment longer. And then it was gone. The next morning, I decided I was leaving. I packed everything quickly, not even bothering to eat. Before leaving, I checked the outside of the door one last time. That's when I noticed it. Marks on the wood. Long, thin lines like fingers had been dragged slowly across the surface. Not scratches exactly, more like pressure marks. I drove straight to the main town without stopping. As soon as I got network, I called the owner. I asked him directly if anyone else had access to the cabin. He was quiet for a moment before answering. Then he said something that made my stomach drop. He told me previous guests had also complained about noises at night. That's all he said. I asked him what kind of noises. He didn't give details, just said some people left early, like I did. Then he added something else. He said none of them ever opened the door. I asked him why that mattered. He didn't answer that question at all, just told me to forget about it and cut the call. I haven't gone on a solo trip since. I still think about that second night sometimes. About how close I was to opening that door, and the part that bothers me the most isn't the footsteps or the voice. It's the way it waited. Patient, quiet, like it knew eventually someone would open the door.